at the New York City Vietnam Veterans Memorial here at 55 Water Street, and today is Vietnam Veterans Day, a day where we recognize all those that fought in the Vietnam War, as well as those that gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Order, Hart. Present, Hart. Order, Hart.
It's Vietnam Veterans Day. We are at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial here in New York City, which is located at 55 Water Street, with this Vince McGowan from the Marines. Tell us a little bit about what this day means to you.
Well, today we are celebrating a proclamation that was handed down by President Obama and then reinstituted by President Trump to have a day of recognition for Vietnam veterans. And we chose to have it at our spectacular Vietnam Veterans Memorial here at 55 Water Street, because this is where the first Welcome Home parade that we threw for ourselves, because the ungrateful country that had sent us to Vietnam had determined that we weren't worth welcoming us home from Vietnam. So in 1985, after the building of the memorial, through money that was raised by Vietnam veterans, we spontaneously decided to march our way across from Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn, across the Brooklyn Bridge and down Broadway. And that was a very special day. There was about 3,500 of us that walked across that bridge, and another couple of thousand that were here when the lights were first lit on this memorial, and they haven't gone out since. And New York City, since that day, has really opened its arms to Vietnam veterans. We've actually rebuilt the entire plaza. It's the only place you'll see all these, there's 13 different flags up here that include all the service flags and the POW flag, and they fly 24 hours a day here in memory of the men and women who served that many years ago.
And this wall behind us has all the names of the New York veterans that gave their ultimate sacrifice, their lives.
Yes, we started out with 1,741. We now have 1,743. Two more names, two more that were missing in action. We didn't know where they were. Their remains have been found, and now their names have been added to our memorial wall. And if you take a camera on there, you can see how we've added them on. And we're in the process of refreshing all this area now. Looking at the 100th anniversary of Veterans Day next year, we believe there's going to be a lot of activity on the site for people that want to remember their loved ones, remember the sacrifice that brought us this wonderful country, and the men and women that stand for it. And we'll look in the future to make sure that we continue to honor their service.
This is downtown Manhattan, 55 Water Street, in case you've never been here. And welcome home.
Thank you very much. And go on our website, the Friends of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Plaza. There's a PayPal section in there. Any donation is helpful. You can see by all this work that this is an expensive place to build and an expensive place to maintain. And our board of directors works very hard to make sure that the place stays in a condition that would be of honor to the men and women that it represents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristal. Thanks for the opportunity.
My name is Gary Greenough. I'm from Santa Rosa, California, and this is my first day in New York and my first event. I looked up in the paper or the email, and I saw that the Vietnam veterans were going to have an event down here today, and I had to be here. I'm a member of 223, a life member, Vietnam veterans in Santa Rosa, California, and I am thrilled to be here. There's a beautiful plaza they have here. And I'll be speaking at our wall in next Saturday. We have the traveling wall from DC at our location, and I am really just so happy to be here today, and it's a wonderful event. This marks my 50th anniversary in Vietnam in 2 months. and I also turned 71 in 2 months. So this is a big party, and like I said, I'm on here a tour of New York for the first time, and this is my first event. I love it.
Welcome home.
Thank you very much.
Now we have a proclamation from Governor Andrew Cuomo presented by Mr. Glenn Harris from New York State Division of Veteran Affairs.
The New York State Division of Veterans Affairs honors you. I'm an Air Force veteran. Welcome home. Whereas throughout the history of our state and nation, countless brave individuals have answered the call to patriotic duty, including Vietnam veterans who endured unspeakable hardships and risked their lives fighting for the ideals of democracy. And whereas of the names listed on the Vietnam Memorial Wall in our nation's capital, 4,119 are those of courageous young New Yorkers who went off to fight half a world away, never to return. We recognize and thank all of our state's veterans for their service. Those who made the ultimate sacrifice, those who came home physically or emotionally scarred, and those who returned home safely to their loved ones. And whereas we have not forgotten, nor will we ever forget, the men and women who served so honorably in the Vietnam War, like so many others who answered the call to serve in previous and subsequent wars, the selfless service of Vietnam veterans is an inspiring reminder of patriotism, spirit, and courage of all of our nation's armed forces. And whereas it was on March 29, 1973, that the last 2,500 American combat troops were withdrawn from the battlefields of Vietnam, and we solemnly commemorate the 46th anniversary of this day and reflect on its significance for the past, present, and future generations. We're honoring today, but now therefore Andrew M. Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, does hereby proclaim March 29th, 2019 Vietnam Veterans Day in the Empire State.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, and thank you, gentlemen, for receiving these proclamations on behalf of our community. I'd now like to call to the podium Major General Retired James T. Jackson, the Director of the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me thank you all for allowing us to participate with you today. Didn't know it was spring yet, but I guess this is what spring looks like in New York. It's nice to see a crowd here, though, you wonderful group of people. Special thanks to the City of New York and to United War Veterans Council for all that they do for our veterans here throughout the years. I also want to thank VVA Chapter 126. We were attending their reading of the names just earlier this morning. Very well done. A nice tribute. And a thanks to your mayor and governor for all they do for the veterans of the city and for the state. Now, throughout our country's history, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending our freedoms. More than 44 million Americans, men and women, have sacrificed and served during time of war. Many here today can be counted among them. This collective service and sacrifice has safeguarded our most important freedoms and liberties, which are embodied in our Constitution. Our nation in the past has publicly recognized the honorable commitment and sacrifice of those who served during difficult periods of our history. Both World War II and Korea have both had commemorations to recognize those who served at that time. Today, we as a country
are taking the time to focus on a specific group of these heroes, our Vietnam veterans. Through the commemoration that I have the privilege of running, our country is formally offering its gratitude of service and sacrifice to as many as possible of the 6.5 million living Vietnam-era veterans and the 9 million families of those who served on active duty in our armed forces between November 1955 and May 1975. Of the 9 million who served during this time, about 3 million served in theater, and certainly deserve our thanks for some very difficult service during that war. Well, it's clear that there is a difference between those who served in theater and those who served elsewhere. Our mission as a commemoration is to help the nation recognize and honor all who served at this time, regardless of location. All were called to serve, and the overwhelming majority served honorably. Upon coming home, our Vietnam veterans took on the mission to mentor those who followed them in uniform. They built the foundations of today's military, the very best in the world today. Their experience and leadership led to the successful operations such as Panama, Desert Storm, Bosnia, and both operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. Authorized by Congress and the President, and on behalf of the nation, we now have an opportunity to do what should have been done 50 years ago, to welcome our Vietnam-era veterans home with honor and thank them and their families for their service and their sacrifice. Across the country, more than 11,000 local, state, and federal organizations have become commemorative partners, committed to hosting events to publicly recognize and thank and honor our Vietnam veterans and their families. Since becoming a commemorative partner in 2013, the City of New York, local businesses, municipal organizations, and veterans service organizations, along with the United War Veterans Council, have been conducting events in a meaningful, personal, and heartfelt way. In New York, with nearly 240,000 Vietnam veterans, nearly 67,000 Vietnam veterans have been presented one of our veteran lapel pins, and another 17,000 have been recognized by the 238 commemorative partners all across your state. These pins are not designed to replace Valor Awards earned in combat or service awards issued by individual services of our armed forces, but they are meant as a token of gratitude from the nation for your service. If any of you here today served during the time I mentioned and have not yet received a pin, my table over here, please stop by and receive your pin before you leave today. Additionally, we continue with efforts to recognize the families of those whose loved ones are listed on the wall in Washington, D.C. The families of the missing, of which we still have 1,589 awaiting some kind of accountability. Our former POWs and the surviving spouses of those veterans who made it home but have subsequently passed away. To all the veterans here today, thank you for your service. Welcome home. And what you have done years ago is well beyond our ability to repay. Each of you have helped to make a difference, and your service was meaningful and important to the nation. Thank you for being here today, and God bless you and God bless America. As I said, these pins are given on behalf of the country, and on the back of the pin it says, "A grateful nation thanks and honors you." We realize we're a little late, but as we commonly refer to this, we tell people, better late than never, but we appreciate your service. Your contributions are certainly valuable.
During the Vietnam War, one of our staunchest allies was South Korea. More than 325,000 Republic of Korea troops served, suffering over 15,000 casualties, include over 5,000 deaths. Back then, these men walked the same ground and fought the same enemy as our troops, in many cases side by side. Today, they suffer many of the same issues and face the same challenges as our veterans. Over 2,800 of them are now United States citizens, with many living right here in New York City. Our friends at Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 126, have embraced these veterans, who have aligned themselves as associate members of VVA. In the spirit of brotherhood, we are proud to invite representatives of Korean American Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 126, to come up to receive our UWVC challenge coin as a token of welcoming them to our community. Can I please have Young Sam Chung, Subu Lee, Min Ho Lee, and Dun Han Bak please come to the stage. Here's the challenge coin. Thank you for your service. Get everybody together, and then you guys can find me. Now it is my honor to recognize this year's Service to Vietnam Veterans honoree. This is the third year that we are representing this award, which was renamed last year to bear the name of our former Executive Director, Pat Gilcherry. Pat was an icon of New York City veterans community. He led the charge to revitalize and expand our Veterans Day Parade, and also expanded the United War Veterans Council's activities to and around the calendar events. One of these events, one of the events Pat launched was this one, honoring our Vietnam veterans. It is only fitting that we have renamed this award the Pat L. Gilcherry Service to Vietnam Veterans Award. And it is even more fitting that this award is etched with the image of Pat's famous Vietnam veterans ball cap. To help me to present this award, I would like to invite up Miss Marlene Molly Levi, founder of the PLG Veterans Assistance Fund. Mr. Ryan Haig, longtime producer of the New York City Veterans Day Parade. Fran Rassiopi, Jim Davari, and Nick Angione, board members of the United War Veterans Council. Okay. You guys from here?
This year, we are honored to recognize another icon of our Vietnam veterans community and a longtime friend and advocate of veterans of all eras. Paul Bud Buca was born August 1st, 1943 into a military family. He attended the United States Military Academy at West Point, graduating near the top of his class. After receiving his MBA at Stanford University, he deployed to Vietnam as a captain, commanding Company D, 3rd Battalion, 187th Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. On March 18, 1968, Captain Buca and his company came across a full battalion of North Vietnamese Army troops in the vicinity of Phuoc Vinh. Vastly outnumbered, the company came under heavy enemy fire and was pinned down. Buca personally destroyed an NVA bunker and then organized the withdrawal of his unit to a more defensible position. The battle continued overnight, during which Captain Buca encouraged his troops, distributed ammunition, and coordinated support fire from artillery and helicopter gunships. When medevac helicopters arrived to evacuate the wounded, Buca stood out in the open and guided them in with flashlights. In the morning, after the NVA withdrew, he led a detail to rescue soldiers who had been cut off from the company during the fighting. For his actions in this engagement, Buca was awarded the Medal of Honor, our nation's highest award for valor. After returning to the United States, Buca taught at West Point until resigning from the Army in 1972. In his post-military career, Mr. Buca has enjoyed success in leadership positions in a diverse array of companies. In addition to his business endeavors, Mr. Buca has lectured and advised military leaders and elected officials on honor and leadership. Yet despite these many demands on his schedule, Mr. Buca has always made time for his fellow veterans in New York City, and especially our New York City Veterans Day Parade. He helped keep the flame of the parade lit during its darkest years and played an important role in its return to prominence. Today, he serves as a commentator during our parade broadcast, helping tell the story of our veterans to the viewing public. He is also on the board of the Friends of the Vietnam Veterans Plaza. Mr. Buca has 4 children and 3 grandchildren, and is married to the former Cynthia Carter Bell of Cornwall, New York. Together they reside in Connecticut. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Bud Buca to the podium. There's the hat. Mr. Buca, on behalf of the United War Veterans Council, our Vietnam veterans and veterans of all eras throughout the city of New York, it is our honor to present to you the 2019 Patrick L. Gualtieri Service to Vietnam Veterans Award.
Thank you. And now we will be laying the wreaths in memory of those lost in service. Following the wreath-laying ceremony, our Gold Star families will step forward to place flowers alongside the memorial. Please rise if you are able for the presentation of the wreaths and flowers, followed by a rifle salute, the playing of taps, and a moment of silence. The wreaths being laid today represent the following: the United War Veterans Council, our Vietnam veterans, our POW, MIA families, our military service branches, our OIF, OEF, and post 9/11 veterans, Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 126, KVVA, Chapter 126, Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 72. Wreath in memory of John F. Ward, U.S. Army veteran. Wreath in memory of Michael Gala, USMC, Vietnam. Friends of Vietnam Veterans Plaza, New York City Veterans Alliance. I would like to now invite our Gold Star family members forward to place their flowers. This will be followed by a rifle salute volley and the playing of taps.
I'm Kristal Hart reporting from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial here in New York City, once again located at 55 Water Street. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching. And thank a veteran today.